Hello, everyone out there in Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is you happen to be coming across this little podcast. It is I, Ginger, with another episode of Fighting the Void, where we talk about anything and everything that will push back against nihilism and just talk about things that are cool, that are fun, that are interesting. And as anyone who's been with us a while knows, we do, in fact, talk about just about everything here. And today we're going back into the literary world where we haven't been for a while, because I have Mr. Russell Newquist here, head of Sliver Empire Publishing. And they have recently had a lot of major developments. And we're going to let Russell kind of talk about that a little bit. So first, welcome to the show, Russell.
Thanks, Ginger. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It is a pleasure. I'm definitely a fan of some of the talent you've got in your stable. So this is pretty fun. I'll be honest, full disclosure, I haven't got into any of your books yet, but what is it? War Demons? Am I getting that right?
War Demons is the first one in my series, and I'm lagging a bit behind because I've been so busy publishing everybody else's works that my own have taken back burner.
Hazards of being the boss, but that was on my short list. So
I very much like to know what you think when you get to it. And in your defense, I'll say that out of the talent that we have, I can't blame anybody for getting to mine later on the list.
You definitely have some that is noteworthy, even independent from Silver Empire. I mean, we were discussing before the show that you've got John C. Wright in your talent pool now, which is a huge get.
I was absolutely just overjoyed when we were able to bring him on. I didn't love the circumstances that led to it. It was we picked that up after some friends of mine at Superversive Press had to close their doors. And I didn't love that at all because some good people over there that, like I said, friends of mine. But we did manage to find a home for a number of their authors, and we're working to get those books back out as quickly as we can, and some future books from several of those people as well.
I'm definitely looking forward to it because, Wright in particular, I've read a lot of his books. I won't say I've read all of them, but I've read a lot of stuff going back to the Golden Age trilogy.
That's honestly, that's the first of his that I read myself, and he hates it when I say this because he's like all writers, he's improved his overall talent so much. That one is still my personal favorite of his. Unfortunately, that's one we do not have rights to. Tor still has that.
I was going to say that, and the Count to Infinity series. Those are both under Tor, as I would imagine Titans of Chaos is.
Those ones still are. Maybe I shouldn't announce this yet, but what the hell? We just found out this week that he's gotten the rights back to his Evernest series.
Oh, nice.
And,
that's great.
Probably be this fall or early next year before we're able to get those back out. But we will be picking up those as well. We have his Unwithering Realms series.
Love those.
Which his very first blog post where he talked about the idea for that series, he had me on that post.
You know what? We're gonna circle back to that.
Yeah,
because we should back up a little bit and explain to people what is Silver Empire Publishing in the first place.
So Silver Empire Publishing is basically what it sounds like. We're a small, still a very small press, but growing and pulling in a lot of people. We have 55 books up on our web store now that we've put out over the last few years, and that collection is growing. I guess you could say it's growing like the coronavirus at an exponential rate.
Dang it! I said this was going to be a mostly corona-free podcast.
I'll stay off it beyond that. We do need to. I agree with you very much that we need to keep some optimism and hope going in otherwise bleak times for everybody.
It's fair to point out because there are a lot of people who, unlike me, unfortunately, don't have to go to work. It is anything to read, so that's where you come in.
It is. I hope that most of your viewers are able to go back to work when this is done. As somebody who has been on the unemployment line in the past, it's I really hope that that most anybody watching this right now is going back to work when this is all done.
Absolutely.
Tough times. I'm going to leave it at that. The only reason I mention it is half of those books came out within the last 12 months, and that's about the rate we're growing at. We're growing really rapidly. So we've got a lot more stuff in the pipeline. We have authors like John C. Wright. If your viewers are familiar at all with the Pulp Rev crew, we have a number of fairly known names within that crowd: John Mollison, Kai Wai Che, and some others. They've written in our Heroes Unleashed superhero universe. We have a shared universe of superhero prose novels, Heroes Unleashed. We just launched the 5th book in that on our website. It's not up on Amazon yet, but it will be next month. It's on our website now, and we have, oh my gosh, we have so many more of those on deck ready to come out this year. We might even be getting 2 a month for most of the year.
Nice.
Getting them coming in. We have a lot of those, and we have another number of other authors that have done fairly well. We've like I said, we just picked up a handful from Superversive, and yeah, so it kind of started off as almost just a whim, and it's just grown into something completely unexpected ever since then.
That is all. Now, how long has Silver Empire been a thing?
So our official birthday, my wife told the story for this in another podcast not too long ago. Our official birthday was December 31st of 2014. I think it was 2014. Might have been 2015. My wife had a short story she'd submitted to about 50 different places and been rejected from. And finally, we just looked at everything on Amazon, and she was like, all right, I'm going to publish something this year. And then she forgot about it until December 31st. And she's like, I'm publishing this. And I was like, well, wait, if we're going to do this, we should do it right, make a little company out of it and everything. And so we did. And that's kind of where it went. And it's gone from there. And our original logic with starting it as a company was, well, hey, we've got all these fixed costs we have to do anyway. If we gather some of our friends and everybody bands together, we can share the costs and make it a lot easier to make the money back. And then it just kind of took on a life of its own after that. I did not expect that we'd have 55 novels out at this point.
Not to mention just 12 of them in the last, or half of them. I mean, I'm sorry,
yeah, 20 in the last 12 months. So I absolutely didn't think we'd be at that point this quickly.
It definitely helps that at least some of your authors are incredibly prolific.
It helps, and it causes trouble on its own. We had to hire an editor just to help us keep up with Declan Finn.
That's exactly who I was thinking of. That's exactly who I meant.
We have a couple others who are starting to give him a run for his money now.
Oh, really?
So there's a lot out there. His latest book's up on our web store now too.
Volt. Yep.
And
unless he's squeezed out another one since then.
He's got another one since then that's already written that we're trying to keep up with, and we've got a whole other series from him that just needs editing.
Really?
Well, okay, not an entire series, but at least 3 books in the next series.
I'm going to have him on the show again and pick his brain a little bit about that, because I've had Declan on a couple of times already. Talking about his Love at First Bite series, and of course St. Tommy.
I don't know how he manages to be so prolific either. It's kind of flabbergasting.
Well,
but
the head of ARK Watson, the head of Catholic Reads, was asking me about that. It's like, we've got to find out how he manages to do this. I'm also the horror editor over there, so I read and review Declan's books for them.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were associated with Catholic Reads. We've been very fond of those guys, all of y'all, from the beginning. You guys were some of the first ones to give us any exposure at all, and we've tried to return the favor as much as we've been able.
Yep, I know. I noticed that, and we definitely thank you.
I think you guys are doing a really great thing. I'm glad to see it.
Well, I'm glad. More importantly, that guys like you and others out there are actually putting out books that need discovering, that are worthy of discovering. That they just need a little bit of help to make people aware, especially out there in kind of the religious sphere, where people kind of there's, as you well know, there's a stereotype out there for what a Christian book is. And I know Declan in particular has a mission to destroy that stereotype.
Well, and we are not just a Christian publisher. We really, and we don't want to be that. But at the same time, myself and Declan and John Delarose and several of our other writers, we're all very much of the opinion there's the stereotype that Christian fiction sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfortunate reality is that in the last 20, 30, 40 years, that's largely been true. Christian fiction mostly sucks. But it doesn't have to. And, I'm going to tangent for just a second and get on my soapbox since you started it.
Absolutely.
Until the first half of the 20th century, through the first half of the 20th century, really, almost all Western fiction was Christian fiction.
Right.
Not in the, excuse me, I'm sorry. Not in the explicit sense that we think about when we talk about Christian fiction.
Right.
But Christian in the sense that it took a Christian worldview for granted. And the example that I like to use personally is Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
The horror novel Dracula, it assumes that the Christian and almost it's written by an Anglican, so it's crazy when I say this, but it almost assumes even a Catholic worldview.
Very close,
very close to a Catholic theological view, and it just takes all that for granted and assumes it's correct. And which I use to point out that that Christian literature doesn't have to suck, and it never had to suck. Most of it's actually quite good, and it's just recently it's just taken a twist for that. And yes, we are on a mission to fix this and to make people realize that it doesn't have to suck at all, and that in fact it can be quite a lot of fun. And Declan and John Delarose are doing a better job of being more prolific on that than I am, but people tell me I've done a good job with my own books as well, and still working hard on that.
Awesome. Well, and I want to see more of it. And I know Delarose, he does novels and he does comics as well, does he not?
He does, yes.
Okay. I have yet to catch up with any of his work, but he's definitely on my short list. And is he a newer addition to the stable? Did he come along with Superversive or?
So John came along with us last year specifically because we were doing this kind of Christian fiction. We like to call it badass Christian fiction.
You know what? I like that. And it's 100% appropriate for anyone who hasn't checked out any of their books or hasn't been here when we've talked to Declan Finn. I assure you it is badass Christian fiction because St. Tommy Nolan, NYPD detective, regularly punches demons in the face, literally. It's awesome.
It's quite a bit of fun, and he wanted to write his Knights of the Nano Templar series, which it's basically futuristic. I'll just say it's Star Wars, but instead of the Force, it's Christian knights, with miraculous powers and everything. And he wanted to go that route with it. And because of the other work we were doing, we made a good home for that series. He's done work with Superversive. He's done work with Castalia House. He's done. I think he's self-publishing all of his comics now. John's been everywhere with us, but that particular series was a good fit for us. And we have another one coming from him in the future that he's actually co-writing a series with my wife right now. And they're working on that. Not sure when that'll be done and when it'll be out. Hopefully by the end of this year or early next year. But he's also doing a lot of work with other places, and that's been great. we've done really well with him on the stuff we've done. Justified did great, and in that series, and yeah, he's been fun to work with. I say that lovingly, John. If you're watching, John is one hell of a fun guy to hang out with in person. I know he is also controversial in many ways, but I think most people who listen to him don't always understand where he's coming from. So
I think that's fair to say, because I know I've talked to a lot of people who are fall on the controversial side of things, shall we say. And usually they're just operating outside of the typical paradigm a little bit. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not. And, you know, I've noticed this observation as well. I think a lot of the people who get the most upset at John, they read stuff he writes and kind of imagine it in a Darth Vader voice. and if you've ever met the guy, and you realize that probably 90% of everything that ever comes out of his mouth ever is half serious and half joke at the same time. you just take him totally differently once you've met him. And I think too many people maybe take him a little too seriously, actually. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I think they just, don't understand John.
It's kind of a don't take him literally, but take him seriously sort of thing.
Yes. Actually, that's a very good approach. His fans take him seriously, but not literally, and his opponents take him literally, but not seriously. That's which much is the same has been said about our president right now. So,
exactly what I was thinking. I was
okay. I don't know how controversial your show is and how controversial I just made it, but
like I said, we talk about just about everything around here. So we've had everything from atheists to hardcore Catholics to people who would be fine if Trump, crowned himself king. We pretty much run the gamut around here. In fact, the next show is going to be a discussion between myself being a Catholic, a Protestant friend of mine, and an LDS guy. We're just going to be talking about different approaches to prayer amongst the three groups. So we do just about everything, which, isn't good for growing an audience because everybody likes their niche. I hate niches.
I'm the same way. It's part of the reason my blog never really took off the way other people thought it should, or the way I always hoped it would, at least. But, I think too many people get stuck in their niches too, and it's much more fun to get outside of them.
If I had to talk about the same stuff every week, I would be so incredibly bored.
No doubt.
But fortunately, I don't have to. This is my thing. I can do what I want. And if anyone else wants to do it, whatever they want. In fact, I'm sorry we're getting off topic here, but I've got there's another couple of people who have been regular guests. One of them was a co-host for a while. They do a show under the same banner called Blunt Talk, and they just talk about their own stuff, and that's cool.
Yep.
But anyway, back to Sliver Empire. Mm-hmm. In addition to your massive, the massive Corona-like growth that you've had in the last year or so, you just launched a couple months. Is it even a couple months? Yeah,
it hasn't been a month.
A brand new book club.
We went live on March 1st, the Silver Empire Book Club, and it's been fairly successful. We've done fairly well for the launch. Not overwhelming, massive launch, but good, solid launch.
Good.
And so basically what we've done, I'll explain this for your viewers. I know you get it because you've already subscribed.
Yes, I do.
So basically what we did is we put together a system that works a lot like Audible. So you subscribe on a monthly or an annual plan, and depending on what level plan you subscribe for, you get a certain number of credits each month or each year. And the credits are good to buy basically anything in our store. And you can buy books in whatever format you like. So you can buy ebooks, paperback, or hardcover. We don't have audiobooks yet. We are hoping to get some up by the end of this year. We have several we're working to get that done with. So the subscription plans are the credits. The number of credits you get per plan are set to match that. So we have the ebook plan that's 1 credit per month lets you buy an ebook. The paperback plan is 4 credits a month, which is enough to buy a paperback. And then the hardcover plan is 9 credits a month, lets you buy a hardcover. But you don't have to use your credits in that way. So if you buy the hardcover plan but want to buy paperbacks instead, you can buy 2 paperbacks and have enough credits left over to buy an ebook too for your month. So
Nice.
a lot of flexibility. Your credits never expire. So if you don't like what you see right now, you can wait a month and see what else we release, or a year and see what else we release. And they all work on our entire back catalog. So when we first started thinking this up, we were like, well, what if people don't like the book we put out this month? Well, the answer is your credits work on our entire back catalog. So you can go get anything. And like I said, there's already 55 books in the back catalog, and there's more coming every month.
And you're not going to get bored.
You're not going to get bored.
That's the most important thing. So all of you who are actually, in fact, under quarantine right now, you need things to read. For crying out loud, sign up to the Dudes Book Club. I can tell you from personal experience, you are highly unlikely to be disappointed. Just, again, Declan Finn's work will definitely keep you busy for a while. He's got 2, actually 3, 4 series out there already. I haven't read his Pious Man books or the ones that focus on Merle from the Love at First Bite series yet, but I'm getting there. And then, of course, there's John Wright's Some Wither and No Wither. He's putting that out in smaller segments, I believe.
Yeah, so if you've got fans who are John C. Wright fans, then...
and if you're not, why aren't you?
I will go ahead and talk about that for just a second.
Please do.
I want to let people know what we've done and why. And I want to make sure people don't go buy something they've already bought, because that's not what we want people to do.
Right.
We're not out trying to get more of your money. But so what happened is that book was originally published by another publisher. And through a rather complicated series of events, the rights ended up with us instead. And the original publication was Some Wither as 1 volume. And then No Wither was actually published by a different publisher as 1 volume. But the first publisher, meanwhile, had not done as well with Some Wither as they liked, and they had split that book into multiple volumes. And so when we got it back, we were kind of looking at, well, what are we going to do with this? It was released one way, it was released another way. How do we want to handle this? And originally, I just wanted to go with just putting it out as 1 volume again, to not confuse fans. That was actually my primary reason, is that I didn't want people who had already bought it to think, hey, there's something new that they need to go spend money on. But then we ran into a practical problem, which is that the original publication of Some Wither is, when we went to get the print versions done, it's an 860-page book.
Oh my gosh, is that long?
It's that long. Like, I read it originally when it came out years ago.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that long.
It didn't feel that long.
It doesn't feel that long at all, but it was 860 pages. So our list price for our paperbacks, our standard list price is $14.99. And when I went up to put that in with our printer, I got back a price to print the book of $13.56. And you clearly
be able to make a profit somewhere.
Do this. And if the book had sold on Amazon for $14.99 after Amazon took their cut and the print company took their cut, we would have lost money.
Yeah,
we would have actually lost money on it. Gigantic book. And so we kind of had to go back to the drawing board on that. And so what we're doing with that series is we have already re-released Some Wither as a single volume. We've retitled it, and we're rebranding that as the collection of the first 4 books. And we're going to be releasing them individually. And that also ends up working fairly well because the book that was released as No Wither was about 200 pages also when it was done. So you had long book, little bitty short book. And so what we're going to do is we're going to re-release it as 4 books individually, and they will be priced like a normal book. They're going to be roughly 200 pages a piece. There's going to be a little bit of variation there, but right in that range. And then what was called No Wither, we're going to retitle. It'll be the same length. It'll fit in with everything else. And when we get enough more done, we'll collect those into another omnibus volume for the next 3, 4, 5, whatever makes sense. That will be called No Wither again, and it'll be out there. So if you want to get that now and you haven't seen it, you can get that book right now on our book club. It's 4 books worth of material. It'll cost you 2 books worth of credits, whatever format you buy it in.
That's pretty solid.
It had to be more than 1 because of our cost structure on it, but we didn't want to price gouge anybody on it. Or if you want to wait, we should be putting those out starting next month. We've got a cover artist going on the covers for those right now, and we're just waiting on that basically to get the individual ones relaunched. So
very cool.
Economically, that works out a little bit better for John because selling 4 books rather than 1 for the same amount of material, but that's not even really the reason we did it. We did it that way because we just basically had to. Yeah,
and it does. It makes solid sense, to be honest. It does, and especially since there does seem to be there isn't the attention span necessarily for such a massive work amongst a lot of people. I wouldn't say it's exclusive. Fans of people who already are familiar with Wright's work know that the dude does not write short books.
Yeah, his fans know what to expect from that. Yeah. The rest of the world, and one of the things we really want to try to do is introduce him to a new audience because, in my personal opinion, it's criminal how few books he has sold in the past and how many people are not reading his work. I mentioned this to you before we started recording and went live. John C. Wright is probably my favorite living sci-fi author, and I could not believe we got him in our lineup. This is just totally blown away, and it's a shame more people aren't reading his stuff. It's absolutely incredible.
I completely agree. There's nothing that he's written everything he's written is just massive amounts of imagination are put into it. And it's all imagination that is grounded in like really solid science. Like one of the things that I really liked about the Count to Infinity series was that it involves a lot of interstellar travel, but it doesn't involve magical interstellar travel. There is no we want to move the story along quickly, so there's a warp drive, there's a hyperspace, there's like in Orson Scott Card's Ender series where you imagine yourself in a bubble and you pop outside the universe and pop back in where you want to. There's none of that. It's like, no, until we actually discover solid evidence that such a thing exists, nope, it's just brute force. You gotta go, and it's gonna take a long time to get there.
A lot of his stuff is like that. Yes, I'm actually gonna say the Unwithering Realm series that we're publishing of his is actually fits in a lot more with. It is sci-fi in a way. It also fits in more with our badass Christian fiction.
Yeah. Well, very much so. Yes, given given how things work with Ilya there.
The premise of the series is that alternate universes exist and they're real, but it takes a literal biblical level miracle to split universes into. And so he has alternate universes in which one or another of the miracles from the Bible did not happen. And his main character is jumping through them. So in a way, you could consider it portal fantasy. And as you said yourself, just the amount of imagination is just over the top that is in
Mhm.
that series. It's insane in all of the best ways. It's insane.
Yes. I mean, the first place I encountered that was, of course, the Golden Age trilogy, where he's just letting his mind run wild on the possible applications of nanotechnology.
Yeah, and that one is one of my favorites. My undergrad degree is actually in philosophy, and
So you really like that, yeah.
I loved the way he was addressing what is memory, what is it that actually makes you you, what is it that makes humans human. That series, unfortunately, Tor still owns the rights to, but I do have a signed hardcover copy of the whole series on my bookshelf. So the benefits of knowing the man personally.
Absolutely. If I ever had the opportunity, I will definitely get him to sign those books for me, because they are so good. And if I ever have the opportunity, and you may actually know the answer to this, because I know he's a former atheist who is a convert to Catholicism. I can't help but wonder if those books were written shortly before or shortly after his conversion.
They were written before, and
Before.
a
I,
lot of
I
fiction was.
suspected that it was like just before.
I That one I know because he wrote about it on his blog at one point. I did have the really great fortune. We were visiting family a couple hours away from him over Christmas this year, and we stopped in to visit with him and his wife for several hours at their home, and just had an absolutely wonderful time. And that was one of the things we talked about. Was both of us have our interesting conversion stories from atheism to Catholicism.
Right.
It's something we very much share in common, and our stories are similar, but also different in interesting ways. And for those who haven't read it, he's written a good chunk of his story up on his blog. It's well worth the read. Whatever your religious leanings are, it's well worth the read. Um, I've written my own up on my blog many years ago, and people tell me it's good. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to judge.
I'll have to check it out, because I actually didn't realize until I saw your Twitter profile that you also were a former atheist and convert to Catholicism.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Now, it always is. I I I would say back in high school I did the whole atheist thing for a little while, but let's just say I went around back and forth, beat around the bush an awful lot, and kind of was very agnostic. I describe myself as a Christian flavored agnostic.
I went through that phase myself.
Yeah.
I never used that particular term, but it would have fit. The Yeah, I have family members, because I was raised Protestant. And I have family members who love to ask me, "Well, why'd you go Catholic when you?" And I guess the short version of the answer is for the same reason I went atheist, because I took it seriously.
Yeah, honestly.
But yeah, that's a long topic in and of itself.
Oh yeah.
We had
That's
a good
whole
time
other show.
at Christmas time, though, and his story is very interesting. I definitely recommend it.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that out, because reading that, I'm like, knowing that he did that. This reflects some of his thinking that went into the conversion. I know it does. You could just tell.
Right, and one of the things that's very fascinating is, if we're going to just stay on this topic for just a second, I have met very few atheists or agnostics who are not religious in their own way. Most of them really, really get religious and they're mostly atheists. Not very few people actually. Very few people have the balls to call themselves an honest agnostic, because it actually takes a lot to say I don't know, right? And most people are really, even the ones who call themselves agnostic, most of them are really atheists.
Right.
And most of them really fall into the category of dogmatically and religiously and fervently believing there's no God to the point of being unable to be convinced.
Mm-hmm.
There are exceptions to that, but they're very rare. And my experience is that most people who have a genuine exception to that, who are actually honestly open and looking, don't
Mm-hmm.
stay atheist or agnostic.
Right. Well, it's exactly it. And we've got one guy over in the chat. He goes by the handle Madness, and I don't want to speak for you, Madness, but I think you kind of fall into that category a little bit just from some of the interactions that we've had, where it's like I think you are looking for the actual answers. You just haven't found them to your satisfaction. Fair enough.
And I was there, and it took a long time. That I mentioned being a philosophy undergrad. That's why I was a philosophy major as an undergrad. I was looking for real answers, and it was a very, very serious thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And to anybody out there who's still looking, I hope you find it.
Absolutely. Now, getting back a little bit to the book club, you mentioned that it's not doing audiobooks yet.
So we have a couple of audiobooks for a couple of our books that are out, and unfortunately the way those have been done, the rights situation is such that we cannot sell them outside of Audible. So they're not on our book club store yet. We have several audiobooks that are in progress that we're working on that are going through different channels this time around, so we will be able to put them out.
Nice.
My own book, War Demons, is available in audiobook. It's on Audible and Amazon. Those are the only places you can buy it, and unfortunately it's going to stay that way because of, at least for the foreseeable future, because of how it was done.
Right.
The Paxton Locke series by Dan Humphreys is available in audiobook. Similar story, because of how those were done. They are only going to be on Amazon and Audible for the foreseeable future. We have an audiobook in progress for Hellspawn, the first book in the St. Tommy series by Declan.
Nice.
You may or may not know John Mollison is doing audio work on that. If you don't know John, his voice is fantastic, and really looking forward to that series being done. He's also written some books in our Heroes Unleashed series. John,
that's probably why I know the name. That's probably why the name rings about.
We've brought on Ann Lewis from Superversive, and we have an audiobook. She had an audiobook that they just finished for her work that hasn't been released yet, but when we put out her book, we'll have the audiobook for that. We have an audiobook in progress for actually some of John C. Wright's works. We have an audiobook in progress for a book of Feasts and Seasons.
Oh, nice.
And that will be up on our site when it's done, and through Audible and ACX. And that's another one. Anybody who is religious in your crowd, that book, it's a book of short stories, science fiction, and mostly science fiction and fantasy short stories.
Very cool.
Where each story is tied to theme with a Catholic holiday or holy day, really, throughout the year, starting at the beginning of the year, going all the way through. And I challenge anybody, even if you're not Christian, to read the Christmas story, Yes, Virginia, There Is a Santa Claus, without crying. I'll challenge the biggest, baddest mother out there to read that story without crying.
All right, I'm gonna have to give it a read then, because
it's phenomenal. So we'll have an audiobook for that. And Somewither has an audiobook version, but that's actually still with the original publisher. We don't have the audiobook rights to that one ourselves. So, but
you're so confusing, man, I swear.
Even though I won't make a dime off of it, go if you're interested in his work, go get it. You won't be disappointed.
No, absolutely not. That was definitely my favorite book of the year when that came out. No contest, really.
Yeah,
but I'd say the last couple of years it's probably been Finn that's taken that for. taken that particular title for me. But then again, I mean, he writes like some of my favorite 4 books of the year because he puts out so dang many.
It's his output's been really great, and the St. Tommy series is really good.
It is.
It's a really good series. We sat down when he started with that, and I'll take a tiny bit of credit. We kind of nudged him in a direction that said, "Hey, this is kind of where your strengths as an author are," and he, to his credit, he went well with that, and that series has just been phenomenally good. He's done really great with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a lot of ways he's kind of like he and Wright are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum in a lot of ways. You know, Wright will go off on a deep philosophical tangent or like spend a lot of time explaining technology or something, whereas Finn is like, when can we start punching things?
I'll give you an idea of where Declan Finn's books are for your readers or for your viewers who haven't read his work. When we republished his Love at First Bite series, we redid the covers on all of those, and that's a bit of a romance series. It's a very action-heavy romance series.
Yeah.
But we came back with what, in my opinion, were some really fantastic covers. And we got great feedback on all the covers. People loved them. And Finn looked at all of those and he said, "Can we at least get an explosion in the next one?"
That is exactly right. Yes.
And that's the St. Tommy series all do have lots of explosions and guns on the cover.
Yes, they
and
do.
All of the books, including his vampire romance books, are chock full. His solution to any problem is how can I add some more explosions and guns? And it's a fun ride.
Yes, very much so. And I love the creative use of various holy items.
Yeah,
that, to fight evil and whatnot. Like when St. Tommy takes like a pack of holy oil and crushes it against his knuckles, so he can literally punch demons in the face. Or
he's really had a good streak of that going as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I love the idea in Love at First Bite with Amanda Colt, the Catholic vampire, actually being able to subsist on the Eucharist. I was like, this is brilliant. Why have I not seen this before?
And I'll have to admit, when I first heard the premise of Catholic vampires, I was extremely skeptical. I was like,
as one would understandably be.
No, it's really good. I mean,
he
did something really interesting with it, and that series is quite interesting. And what he's done is it's a lot of fun. And it was an interesting twist.
Yes, and I'm very much looking forward to the merger of those two worlds. I suspected it early on, and I asked him about it. He tried to like be cagey about it, but I'm like, yeah, so they're the same universe.
Yeah,
it's like good, because I was hoping by the end of the St. Tommy series they would meet.
Well, I have to admit, when we got him going on St. Tommy, our choices at the time were, should we do more St. Tommy or do more in the vampire universe? Right. And we ended up to do the St. Tommy, and
it was a good choice,
which is good, actually. It is good that they've done that. And there might well be some more books in that universe coming in the future, too.
Oh, there better be. There's no spoilers, but I'm really curious to see what happens after what the fallout is after the end of Deus Vult. I'm really curious to see what the fallout of that would be, because I could imagine a world that can ignore the fallout of the end of the Love at First Bite series. But the fallout of Dave's Vault, yeah, not so much.
Well, book 7, the follow-up is out now on our web store, Coven. It'll be on Amazon next month, and
Oh,
and
you guys.
book 8 will be out on our web store hopefully next month.
Coven, is that the one with Packard going after the witches? St. Tommy's partner?
I've got to be honest, but they've all blurred together in my head
Fair
at
enough.
this point.
No, I asked because they mentioned that Packard had a little adventure with some witches and stuff while Tommy was off in Rome.
But the latest one is out right now, book 7. Book 8 is done, and we've just got to get covers for it and get it all done. So hopefully we'll have it out next month. If not, it'll be the month after. And he is writing book 9 as we speak, so it'll probably be done before I get book 8 out.
Well, I know the poor guy unfortunately had a lot of spare time on his hands in Italy when there was nothing going on other than waiting for a flight back home.
Thankfully, he is back home now,
Yeah.
his wife, and we're all very happy that he made it back.
Yeah, I was following that little saga on Twitter. I was like, man, dude, that sucks so hard. Because I'm hoping to hoping to go to Rome myself sometime next year, and I just hope that everything blows over.
I hope you're able to.
Yeah,
for the sake of you and the rest of the world, I hope we're back to normal.
Yeah, no kidding. If by the time I'm planning on going next year, we're not back to some semblance of normalcy,
then it's bad.
Then my first concern is not going to be doing these kind of interviews.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
I hear you.
Much as I enjoy them, I would be like, no, I'm trying to hide somewhere. Probably. I'm at that point, man. I'm probably off grid. But in any case, that's a whole nother conversation, or several conversations. Really,
stay away from coronavirus. So.
My fault this time. On it. Okay, so a little, and I remember seeing there was a thing about comics potentially showing up on the book club at some point, which would be awesome because I like comics, but like we were discussing before we went live, most mainstream comics these days are steaming dumpster fire. So
we'd really like to get to that point. So on our side for ourselves, getting into producing comics, that's somewhere we want to be. But the production cost of comics is quite a bit higher than books. It's an order of magnitude higher. It's
just all the dang color, obviously, and the resolution you've got to be able to print that. Yeah,
it's so the printing side's actually for us the easy side. We've got enough infrastructure on printing that handling the printing wouldn't be a problem. It's getting all the artwork done, getting art and coloring done. That stuff's pretty expensive. So as far as getting into comics on our end, we definitely want to do that. We really very much want to do comics and graphic novels from our Heroes Unleashed world, our superhero world. Mm-hmm. We think it's just a perfect fit, and we want to get there. We're focused on other things first, just because the production costs are so high on that run. Mm-hmm. We are looking at options to take, not looking at, we have plans to take the concept of the Silver Empire Book Club wider than Silver Empire. We're planning to launch another variation of it probably in early 2021.
Really?
That is not just our own stuff, but works from others in the indie community and small press world. And
so something with something where you would work with some of the independent publishers out there. I mean, like self-publishers. I mean, to say.
Self-published authors and small presses. Nice. The goal is to get to a point where they could have a nice, easy interface to just upload their books, and then we just have to go through and approve them, and people could get into the book club very well. We are going to be doing some light curation on that, not so much because we're looking to keep out anybody, but just because we want to make sure quality standards are met.
obviously,
for
yeah.
the book club subscribers, but it would essentially work the same way as our current book club, but
Mhm.
instead of just having our meager 55 book catalog to choose from,
Right.
our goal is to have somewhere around 1,000 books when we go live from different authors all over the indie community. And we have
Nice.
several who have already expressed direct interest to me in wanting to be on board for that.
I can think of a couple potential names, but I'll not mention them.
And we're reaching out to a lot of others. And for the authors, those of you who have contacted me directly interested in getting in the Silver Empire Book Club, now you know this is coming. We were thinking about y'all from the beginning. We're trying to get all the kinks out first before we get before we expand it too far outside our own spheres. And there have been a few kinks that we've been ironing out. We want to get it down to where when we go live with the wide one, it's a very smooth launch. And so that's where we're at. And we do want to have a pretty sizable, for the fans, we want to have a pretty sizable catalog when we go live so that it's ready to go. And I mean, frankly, those of us who are already fans of our work see the book club we've done, and all universally, the ones who are already our fans are telling me, wow, this is a great deal. But for those who don't know us at all, if we've got 1,000 books up online ready to go, then it starts to look like a great deal. And you look at it as like, why would I not do this? And that's where we want to be when we do it.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely see now I want to know all the ins and outs of the guys you're talking, particularly a couple of guys you're probably talking to, but I don't want to let any cats out of any bags.
Odds are good. We've already talked to a lot of the people. I have a vague idea of what circles you run in, so odds are good. We haven't gotten the word out super wide yet. This is the first time I've talked about it publicly, really, at all. But we wanted, like I said, we wanted to make sure things are working before we started talking about it too much. I'm not a big fan of vaporware. I don't want to get out there and start talking about stuff that it turns out I can't actually do. So
right, the lesson I've learned the hard way.
So at this point, the book club for ourselves has been successful enough and going smoothly enough that I'm very comfortable saying yes, we're going to be taking this wide in the future.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
We still have issues to work through before we get to that point, but we are already starting to look at those issues and start working through them.
Very cool. Now, completely off topic.
Sure.
I noticed you've got a martial arts shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
And in your Twitter profile, it mentions that you do martial arts and you're an instructor. Is that correct?
I'm an instructor. I actually own a dojo as a side gig myself, and I should have actually put on a newer shirt. This is the brief history of my dojo that your viewers don't care about. So here's the short
You never know.
I opened under this name once upon a time. My sensei, he hates it when I use the word retired, but he retired from full-time instructing.
Okay.
And so I bought his dojo from him about 3 years ago now,
cool.
3.5 years ago, and merged my school in with his, and have been doing that as a part-time gig. And we're shut down for coronavirus right now. And
yeah, I would imagine so.
I think we'll be in decent shape to weather through it, but that depends a lot on how long the shutdown goes, and we'll have to see what happens. And
kind of one of the things I've been saying is like the longer this goes, man, the longer it's going to hurt.
The longer it goes, the longer it's going to hurt. And then who knows? I'm looking at what Congress is looking at as far as packages for small businesses, and maybe there will be something there that helps us out.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so.
I haven't yet talked to our bank regarding things like, the mortgage and what options are available. We might have options there that help us. If this goes a short time, we'll be all right anyway. If it goes a long time, because it's a side gig for me, I can go a while, but I can't go forever.
Fair enough.
enough about coronavirus stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
What martial arts do you do?
so we teach a style. It's called Shinigami Karate, but it's mostly a combination of kickboxing, karate, and Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I also have an instructor in our dojo who teaches Aikido.
Okay.
A guy with a couple decades of law enforcement experience with that, and I have another instructor who teaches. Make sure I say it right because I always mess it up. Power Plum Fist Kung Fu. Or
Okay. What on earth is that?
messed it up again. Really fantastic instructor. Actually, both of them are some really good groups, and been very fortunate to do that, and very fortunate to have a bunch of good students over there.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Let's see. I've done martial arts myself back in the. It's been a few years now. Lower back got in the way. Let's put it that way.
I understand. I fight knee problems.
Ah, yeah, not a good time. But yeah, the last thing I did was I did I did crowd for a few years,
Mhm.
which let's just say it fits. It fits well.
Yeah, it's Krav is like pretty much every other martial art. There's great Krav schools out there and terrible ones. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's
My instructor was a Marine recon guy,
uh
so I'm like, this is probably pretty good. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and I do think Krav is going through something that I think it seems like every martial art goes through at some point, which is it's every martial art starts out the same way Krav did. How can I most effectively destroy my opponent?
right. And most martial arts also end up being in some way, shape, or form they're tailored to a specific environment
Yep.
and what's going on. So Krav was tailored to soldiers.
Yeah.
Actually in war, dealing with that.
Designed by Israelis to kill terrorists.
Yeah, and a lot of jujitsu and aikido evolved from samurai on the samurai battlefield. They were soldiers too. It evolved
Mhm.
from samurai on the battlefield. And if you look at a lot of the techniques, aikido still preserves a lot of this, a lot more than jujitsu does. That a lot of the techniques are actually designed around being done with a sword in your hand.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so a lot of these martial arts really are, to some degree tailored to an environment that may or may not exist in the modern world.
Mhm.
And our own style being a combination of several arts. I like to say we were mixed martial arts before MMA became a
Oh,
thing.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Before it was cool.
Mhm.
But for the same reasons that MMA did, we were looking at, well, okay, how do we adapt this to the modern world? But the other problem you run into, well, you run into two. One is that times and circumstances change, so things that worked in one case maybe don't anymore.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that there's no standardization, there's no regulatory body, there's no requirements. I have certifications from organizations that I belong to, but I could have opened up a dojo without any of that.
Right.
Nobody knows, no students know. I could go claim to be whatever, and
You could literally make up a combination of words, call it a particular style, and say you are the grandmaster.
that's right. I could do that right now, and nobody would know any better.
Yeah.
I mean, the other martial arts instructors in town would know I'm full of shit, but nobody signing up for class would know.
Right.
and,
Yep. Yep.
and so that's just kind of how the industry is. And so what you get is you get some schools. People ask me a lot, like, what style should I study? And I don't look at the style, look at the instructor. You'll find a good instructor in any style,
Yep.
and you'll find a lot of bad instructors in any style
Mhm.
because of this. And so you need to go find somebody who just knows what they're doing and put some effort in. CrossFit has the same problem.
Oh, I'm sure.
You have totally not martial arts, but there's no certification required to open a CrossFit gym at all. And
have some cinder blocks and some heavy ropes, and you're probably good to go.
I know some guys who are at CrossFit gyms that are phenomenal, where they have coaches who really know the exercises, give them a lot of good coaching, are ready to sit there and say, "Don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself." And I know guys who have been to CrossFit gyms where the coach doesn't know a thing, and people are getting hurt left and right because they're pushing themselves to the edge of what they're able to do with heavy weights. And unfortunately, the martial arts world is the same. It's in the same boat, and all you can really do is do the best you can when you're running a school. Try to run it reputably, and hope that other people are doing the same.
Exactly, and it's got to be frustrating if you get a guy in town who is a fraud.
There's a few. There's a couple folks in town I know, and believe me when I say all the martial arts instructor fans, all the martial arts instructors in town know who they are. We know who the frauds are. We know who the McDojos are, the fast food version, the quick and dirty, and we know who the good ones are. And even when we're competitors with each other, we know who the good ones are. There's a few who are very competitive with me business wise. That there's one school across town that it's a BJJ school, and if somebody calls me looking for BJJ specifically, even though yes, he's technically a competitor, if that's what they're looking for and really want, I send him straight to him because he's a good guy.
He knows the thing.
He knows what he's doing, and he runs a good program. And there's it's we know who's good and who's not. but the general public doesn't. They have no way. They just see it and they go where they go.
Yeah, my criteria was I have to go in, and just from the way the guy handles himself, I have to know that he can kick my ass very quickly. and so I've only ever gone to two schools. One was the cross school that I mentioned, and another was years before that when I was still in the Navy. I briefly went to a place that did Jeet Kune Do, although it was very Muay Thai heavy.
Okay.
And that guy was a bouncer, and so was another one of his instructors, who actually, honestly, he looked a lot like you. Well, one of the other, not the main instructor, but one of the other assistant instructors was. You guys could be brothers. And I got the impression very quickly for both of these guys that they could take me down very quickly, and it will not be any trouble for them. So I can learn things from these guys.
Yeah. And although I will say that's a decent criteria to use, but do be a little cautious with that, because you'll have some guys who could kick your ass just because they're big. And you'll also have some who are old and would have trouble kicking your ass now, but they can teach you a hell of a lot.
This is true. This is true. And both of the main instructors at my places, they were both actually considerably smaller than me. I'm 6'2", and these days I clock in at like 240, and there's a little extra there that I don't need. If I'm being honest, but not a lot. Even back then, I was about 220 and in the gym all the time.
I'm comparable size, and I've worked with some guys who are 6 inches or more shorter than me. 50, 60, 70 pounds lighter, who could toss me around like I was paper.
I know exactly what you mean. One of the assistants at the first school, he was considerably smaller than me. And he was a lot more skilled. When I started, he could hit me as hard as I could hit him.
Yeah.
In all honesty, just because his technique was that much better. Yeah. But I got better. And by the time I got out of the Navy and I left the area, I could take him down. So I was like, okay, I've improved.
The gentleman who was previously the head of our organization, unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago.
Mhm.
But before he did, he was about 5'6", maybe 140 pounds.
Yeah.
And
Same kind of frame. Yeah.
he had trained in the 70s. He'd trained with the Olympic judo team.
Oh, wow.
His guys were helping train a lot of the Olympic judo team.
Mhm.
And that guy, I mean, he had several vertebrae fused in his back, and he couldn't get out and do much anymore. But when he did, on the days when he felt good and he could get out and do it, it was like I wasn't even there when he just moved me around. It was really something to see.
It's got to be frustrating.
It is a little bit. But it was also, I mean, we had the very good fortune if he was extremely generous with his knowledge, and he'd spent the time trying to help teach us and make us all better. And it's a real shame that he's gone and that we don't have that anymore. Very much miss that.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? We're actually a little bit over our normal time, but hey, we got on a fun thing talking about martial arts, so why not? But before we go, Russell, where can the people find you? Where can people find Silver Empire and get signed up for that book club?
So silverempire.org. I don't have the .com version because somebody wants $6,000 for it, and I'm not ready to pay that. If you buy enough books, maybe someday I will, but not anytime soon. Silverempire.org. You'll find sign-up links for the book club there. You'll find all of our books there. And if you don't want to buy direct from us, then you'll also find links to other places you can buy our books. Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, and the like.
All the places.
All the places.
And you're at R Newquist on the Twitter, right?
R Newquist on Twitter. Silver Empire Pub on Twitter. We're not as active on that account as we probably really should be, but I'm on R Newquist, and come and check us out. And
you should all definitely do that because you know what? I know they got some awesome stuff, and I know there's lots of awesome stuff I haven't been able to get to yet, but by golly, it's on my short list after all. I joined the book club myself, so I can personally recommend it. And on that note, next week we'll be back with actually one of the guys in the chat right now, Jake Wilson, and another friend of mine. We're going to be having that Catholic Protestant LDS chat about prayer. And then after that, we'll see exactly how things develop here. The corona apocalypse might change things. You never know. But no matter what happens, until then, keep fighting the good fight.